Even as we grieve, we give thanks for this most faithful life. I am deeply aware of this great inheritance and of the duties and heavy responsibilities.
A sitting king just handed his heir the authority to overrule a queen, and Charles is still on the throne. That has never happened in modern British history. William is not the regent. He has not been named co-monarch. He is simply running the show with his father's blessing, while Camilla fights to stay relevant and the monarchy remakes itself in real time. The crisis that forced Charles's hand. On February 19th, 2026, Prince Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor was arrested, not for the Epstein associations that stripped him of his royal duties years earlier, but for allegedly sharing classified government documents. It was the worst-case scenario William had privately warned about for years, and the moment it landed, Charles made a decision that broke with every convention of the modern monarchy. He handed William final authority. Not advisory input, not a seat at the table. Final authority. Over the Andrew crisis, over the monarchy's reputation strategy, over every major institutional decision tied to the fallout. Royal sources confirmed it. Royal commentator Maureen Callahan told the Daily Mail that Charles had all but handed over the crown on these matters, preferring to step back from issues that threatened the monarchy's future. But people close to Charles read it differently. At 77, fighting cancer, 4 years into a reign that has faced more crises than he ever anticipated, Charles is not retreating. He is making a calculation. William is ready. The monarchy cannot survive another misstep, so Charles moved. Here's what makes that decision extraordinary. In ordinary times, this kind of authority only transfers when a monarch dies or formally abdicates. Charles did neither. He is still king. He still sits on the throne. He still fulfills official duties, and he handed William the wheel anyway. The biggest resistance to that move didn't come from Andrew's circle. It didn't come from aging courtiers threatened by change. It came from Queen Camilla, and it has opened a rift inside Buckingham Palace that nobody saw coming. If you're following how this power transfer actually works behind closed doors, hit subscribe. We're tracking every move as it happens. William saw this coming, and nobody listened.
It would be a considerable stretch to say that he was a very, very close friend, but he had the most extraordinary ability to bring extraordinary people together, and that's the bit that I remember.
William didn't arrive at this position by accident. He's been pushing for exactly this kind of reckoning since 2019, and getting shut down at every turn. After Andrew's disastrous BBC interview about his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, William went directly to Charles, then Prince of Wales, and to Queen Elizabeth herself. His message was unambiguous. Andrew needed to go, not suspended, not quietly reduced, removed, permanently, publicly, no room for rehabilitation. According to Russell Myers, author of William and Catherine, Palace aides had been raising alarms about Andrew's behavior for years before that interview. William took those warnings seriously. Nobody else did. The response he got was, not yet. The Queen was loyal to her son and unwilling to move dramatically. Charles felt torn between his mother and his own unease about his brother. Senior royals assumed the story would fade. William was told, implicitly, to wait. He waited. But he never stopped watching. And get this, his warnings in 2019 weren't vague. He told senior royals specifically that if Andrew wasn't cut loose fast, the reputational damage would compound until the monarchy faced something it couldn't survive. He predicted it with precision. The associations would deepen, new material would surface, and eventually there would be an arrest or a legal process the palace couldn't distance itself from. He gave that warning 6 years before it came true. The people who ignored him are the same people now watching him take over the institution they refused to protect. By 2026, Andrew had been arrested, the Epstein files were public, and the institution was facing calls for accountability from every direction. William wasn't saying, "I told you so." He was already 3 moves ahead, cleaning up the mess others refused to prevent. King Charles, cancer, and an accelerated timeline.
I know from my own experience that a cancer diagnosis can feel overwhelming. Yet, I also know that early detection is the key that can transform treatment journeys
Charles became king in September 2022, the oldest person ever to ascend the British throne, at 73 after 7 decades of waiting. 70 years of being prepared, consulted, briefed, sidelined, and deferred to, all while being told the moment wasn't quite yet his. And then, 17 months after it finally arrived, in February 2024, he was diagnosed with cancer. The specific type remains undisclosed. What is known? Treatment began immediately, and it has not been easy alongside the demands of the crown. Sources close to the palace describe Charles as stubborn about maintaining his role, deeply resistant to stepping back further than his body forces him to. He waited his entire life for this. He is not surrendering it quietly, but his body is making decisions his will cannot override. Weeks after Charles's diagnosis became public, Kate announced her own, discovered following abdominal surgery, requiring preventative chemotherapy. For months in the spring of 2024, both Charles and the heir's household were managing cancer treatment simultaneously. The monarchy's 2 most visible faces were both fighting illness behind closed doors, while trying to project stability to the outside world. That is an extraordinary institutional pressure, one that quietly accelerated the thinking inside the palace about what comes next and how fast. That period changed something in Charles's thinking. Sources cited by Closer Weekly say he began seriously considering an accelerated transfer of responsibilities, not abdication. Palace officials deny any formal plans for that, but a practical, steady handover of real institutional power, while he still had the clarity and authority to structure it deliberately, rather than leaving it to circumstances beyond his control. By 2025, visible signals were already appearing. Charles granted William and Kate the authority to issue royal warrants, the right to publicly endorse brands on behalf of the crown. Previous monarchs guarded this closely. Handing it to William was a signal. A source told News International that Charles was not just helping William realize his potential, but actively guiding him to make the right calls in a crisis. Knowing the future of the monarchy rests with the Wales. Then came deeper involvement in institutional decisions. Then came Andrew's arrest. And then came final authority. William's vision, the monarchy as a modern institution. When William talks about reforming the monarchy, he is not talking about adjusting the ceremonial calendar. He is talking about dismantling the way power has functioned inside the institution for generations, and replacing it with something that looks nothing like what came before. His model is the Royal Foundation, the charity he and Kate have run for years. It has a CEO, a board of directors, clear, published goals, transparent performance reporting, every decision traceable, every outcome measurable. William intends to apply that same architecture to the monarchy itself. What that means in practice? The courtiers who have operated in the shadows for decades, whose influence derives from access and proximity rather than any formal mandate, lose their power. Decisions that were made privately between people who had known each other for 40 years, behind closed doors with no documentation, get replaced by formal reporting structures with accountability built into every layer. Merit replaces loyalty, transparency replaces tradition, and anyone connected to scandal, regardless of their relationship to the crown, gets removed. No exceptions, no quiet negotiations. Out. In October of 2025, William told Canadian actor Eugene Levy plainly that change was on his agenda. He acknowledged the challenge. You cannot visibly disrupt an institution whose symbolic value rests on its appearance of continuity. But he made clear it was coming, whether the institution was ready or not. One insider familiar with William's management of the Duchy of Cornwall said accountability sits at the heart of everything he does. He questions old practices, he demands answers. When answers don't satisfy him, he changes the system. Consider what that means for the institution's day-to-day reality. Right now, senior courtiers, private secretaries, equerries, ladies-in-waiting with decades of palace access operate as informal power brokers. They filter information reaching the monarch, shape which advice gets heard, and protect institutional arrangements that serve their own longevity. Under William's model, those roles get redefined or eliminated. A CEO-style chief of operations sets clear mandates. Decision trails exist. No one controls access by virtue of how long they've been in the building. The working royal model shrinks too. William has told Associates directly. Fewer people carrying the crown's banner, all of them held to a higher standard of conduct. The era of giving family members a platform simply because of bloodline is over. If you represent the monarchy, you are accountable to it. And if you damage it, you're out. No quiet reassignments, no title retention, no waiting for the story to fade. Out. William has already tested this model through the Duchy of Cornwall, the estate he inherited when Charles became king. People who have worked with him there describe a leader who treats every inherited practice as provisional. He asks why. He demands evidence that old methods still serve their purpose. When they don't, he changes them, fast, without sentimentality, and without asking for approval from people who benefited from the old way. The monarchy Camilla currently occupies is the last version of itself that will look like this. William is already building its replacement, the Camilla problem, loyalty, friendship, and a royal standoff.
The latest emails, unearthed by Sky News, contain details about a visit to Mr. Epstein's home in Miami by Sarah Ferguson and her two daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, just a week after he was released from prison.
To understand why Camilla became the obstacle nobody expected, you need one name: Sarah Ferguson. Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, ex-wife of Prince Andrew, has been Camilla's close friend since the 1970s. Before royal life, before Andrew, before Charles. This friendship is 50 years old and has survived everything the royal family has thrown at both of them. When the U.S. Department of Justice released the Epstein files, Ferguson's name was in them. No evidence of wrongdoing, but the documents show she had contact with Epstein and appeared to reach out to him for financial assistance when her businesses struggled. In a message from October 2009, she writes to Epstein with urgency, referencing a sum of money. The full context remains disputed. The existence of those messages is not. William's position is straightforward. The monarchy cannot credibly separate itself from the Epstein network, while the current queen consort maintains a visible friendship with a woman whose name is in the Epstein files. The optics are untenable. The association undermines everything the institution is trying to say about accountability and reform. Camilla needs to end it, or, at minimum, publicly and explicitly distance herself from Ferguson in a way that makes the separation undeniable. Camilla refuses. According to sources cited by Radar Online, she believes William has gone too far. This is not institutional policy to her. It is the future king trying to dictate whom the current queen is allowed to call a friend. Camilla's position is grounded in something William finds inconvenient: loyalty. 50 years of friendship does not evaporate because it becomes politically complicated. She is not cutting Sarah Ferguson loose on demand, and she resents being put in the position of having to choose. There is a version of this story where you have some sympathy for Camilla's position. Ferguson was never charged with anything, her. Appearance in the Epstein files is embarrassing, not criminal. Ending a 50-year friendship because of association, not action, is a harsh standard. Camilla knows that, and she is holding the line on it. But William is not running a court of law. He is managing institutional perception. And the perception problem is real. The situation intensified when Camilla actually moved against Andrew in October 2025, playing a role in the decision to strip him of his remaining titles, reportedly after Andrew began undermining her own public advocacy for sexual abuse survivors. So, Camilla is not blindly protecting Andrew. She is drawing one specific line, around one specific relationship, while agreeing with William on nearly everything else. William is not interested in the distinction. The ultimatum. Late February 2026. William tells Camilla directly, publicly distance yourself from Sarah Ferguson, or accept what comes next. Not a request, not a strongly worded suggestion. And ultimatum, from the future king to the current queen consort, face to face. No intermediaries, no diplomatic softening. Think about what that room must have felt like. Camilla has been queen consort since September 2022. She spent decades being vilified by the British press, rebuilding her reputation brick by brick, finally earning a level of public acceptance she never expected to reach. And now, the man who will wear the crown, her stepson, is telling her to choose between her oldest friendship and her position inside the institution she helped stabilize. The protocol in these situations runs the opposite direction. Heirs don't issue demands to queens. That's not how this works. Except, Charles gave William final authority. And William is using it, every single bit of it. Camilla did not comply. Instead, she tried to reinforce her own credibility on the abuse survivor issue. Meeting publicly with French rape survivor Giselle Picot in February 2026, the move backfired immediately. Social media was brutal. The criticism wasn't subtle. You cannot stand beside an abuse survivor in public while privately staying loyal to someone linked to the Epstein files. The hypocrisy charge landed hard, the criticism stung, and it handed William exactly the leverage he needed. He is now prepared to go around her entirely, reduce her involvement in key decisions, remove her from strategy conversations, and simply wait. Because William knows that when he becomes king, Kate becomes queen consort, and the question of Camilla's friendship with Sarah Ferguson becomes irrelevant. He can afford to be patient. Camilla cannot. She is watching her window close in real time, and she has no move that doesn't cost her something. Kate in the room, the real power struggle. While the William-Camilla standoff dominates the public narrative, a quieter and arguably sharper conflict is playing out between Kate Middleton and Queen Camilla. And it is personal in a way the other is not. When Andrew was arrested, the palace needed to move fast. Statements coordinated, legal advisors consulted, public response managed with surgical precision. Kate stepped directly into that process. She was in the meetings, working with palace staff, coordinating strategy. According to sources cited by the National Examiner, she was operating as William's co-strategist, not as a supportive spouse standing behind him, but as an equal partner making decisions alongside him. Camilla is furious about it. An insider revealed that Camilla has accused Kate of making her and Charles look weak, as if the current generation is incapable of handling a crisis without the next generation running the actual response. The source says Camilla becomes visibly upset when Kate enters certain rooms. The tension has been building for years. The Andrew crisis pulled it into the open. Charles does not share Camilla's frustration. Sources say he defends Kate every time Camilla raises objections, describing her involvement as helpful, not undermining. Charles, unlike Camilla, has accepted what is happening. The transition is real. Resisting it changes nothing. What Camilla is actually reacting to is not Kate specifically. It is what Kate's presence represents. Every meeting Kate sits in, every public appearance beside William at a moment of institutional crisis, every decision that flows through their partnership rather than through Charles and Camilla. It sharpens the same narrative. The future is William and Kate. Increasingly, so is the present. Camilla is watching her own relevance compress, one strategy session at a time. She is not going quietly, but she is running out of room. What happens next? Charles is still on the throne. He is managing treatment and fulfilling official duties as his health allows. Palace officials deny any formal abdication plan, and there is no reason to doubt that. Charles fought his entire life for this role and has no intention of formally surrendering it. But the practical transfer of authority is real and accelerating. Charles is king in title. William is king in function. There is a logic to this arrangement that insiders say Charles understands clearly. He spent 70 years watching the monarchy from the outside. He knows the institution's survival depends not on the reigning monarch's comfort, but on the next monarch's readiness. By giving William genuine authority now, during a genuine crisis, Charles is doing something his mother never did for him, letting his heir lead while the crown still belongs to someone else. It is, in its way, the most consequential decision of his reign, and it is a decision that cannot be undone. Andrew's case determines the pace of everything that follows. Criminal charges still developing. Epstein files still generating revelations. Every new detail is a fresh test of William's crisis strategy. If the response holds, clean separation, visible accountability, no new. Associations surfacing. The monarchy may come out of this stronger than it entered. If the strategy cracks, if new links emerge, if the public response looks managed rather than genuine, the calls for abolition will grow louder than anything the institution has faced in modern history. William has made the terms clear. No personal loyalty overrides institutional integrity. No family connection buys protection. No long-standing relationship earns an exemption. The rule applies to everyone, including the woman currently sitting beside the king. When William wears the crown, the monarchy will be smaller, more accountable, structured like an institution that has to justify its existence rather than one that assumes it. The courtiers lose their shadow power, the decisions come with documentation, the cover-ups end, and Kate will be there for all of it, already functioning as queen consort in everything but name, already in the meetings, shaping the strategy, standing beside William. At every moment, the institution needs a face of stability. The transition is not a future event. It is already happening, one crisis at a time. The old generation is officially in charge. The new generation is already running the show. What does this power shift mean for Camilla's future inside the palace? Drop your take in the comments. Hit subscribe. We're covering every move in William's restructuring of the monarchy as it happens. The next video breaks down exactly what his modernization plan looks like in practice. You won't want to miss it.